want to say hi to everybody.
Those are pretty good, aren't they?
Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Tristan Noyes. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Grain Alliance. You can all consider yourself now members of the Maine Grain Alliance, having attended here. We are for membership also. But really, what we are, that membership that I'm talking about, is this cross-industry, cross-community celebration of farmers, millers, maltsters, brewers, seed researchers, conservationists, all working together to help to inspire and empower people who are building regional grain economies. So we do that in a whole host of variety of ways. You can see some of our programs over here. The very first thing we ever did was something called the Kneading Conference, which was a group of people gathering around a kitchen table in Skowhegan, Maine, thinking about ways that they can connect to the agricultural history of that region and support an important agricultural product that hadn't had the attention paid to it that it needed to for a long time. In Maine, we grow about 50,000 acres of grain, but the vast majority of those acres have been largely for commodity purposes or for livestock feed. And in recent years, through this dedicated community, we've been able to build back and have this sort of grain renaissance that's enabled us to have the delicious kind of dough that you're going to be, some of you are already eating, and that we'll be slicing up and sharing all throughout the night. I want to introduce everybody who's here too. I first want to thank Holden so much, Holden Turner, for inviting us to come and to talk and to bake some pizza and for you to get to eat some pizza. I am a 05 Bowdoin grad, and the chair of our Maine Grain Alliance, Debbie Height, is also a Bowdoin grad. Part of the first class of women who graduate from Bowdoin. I am so honored to have so many people who are incredible to be part of this organization. Richard Roberts, who's running our oven right here, is the person who grew this grain and is the director of our seed restoration program. So if you have questions about any of these rare and ancient grains, talk to him. He's going to have a moment in a little bit to talk about that. But the pizza is why we're here, right? That's the whole thing. That's what brings people. And it's a good example of, this is our mobile wood-fired oven. It's built in Skowhegan, Maine. It's one of the best mobile pizza oven builders in the country. It's fabricated entirely in Skowhegan. It's built with a French Le Pagnol core. It is heavy. If you try to move this thing with a truck, you will need a full-size truck to do it. It's also super well insulated, so you can touch it. It's not hot at all on the outside, even though it was 1,000 degrees in there. When I arrived this morning, or this afternoon at around noon, I opened the door. It was last fired on September 30th. I put my hand in it, it was still hot. So it keeps the heat very well. And the reason that we have it as a nonprofit is that it serves as a way to talk about why local grains matter, and that's a little bit what we wanted to discuss. And one of the ways that it has come to matter is the establishment of all of these incredible entrepreneurs who are creating incredible products from the grain that's being grown and now processed. And Heather Kerner, who's with us, is the founder and owner of the Good Crust, which is the basis for this delicious pizza. I want to introduce her, and I want her to be able to talk a little bit about what makes great dough, why regional grain matters, and how you came to find yourself in this position.
Sure. For anyone who just arrived, you're welcome to get pizza as well.
Yes, I'll be slicing as talking. That's all set. You got the whole pizza right here.
Yes, again, my name's Heather Kerner. I'm founder of the Good Crust. I'm located, we got our start in Skowhegan, Maine, and very soon we'll be moving into a dedicated production facility of our very own in Canaan, Maine, which is just 6 miles from the grist mill. But one of the reasons I started the Good Crust was that in 2020, I really saw a disconnect that restaurants and home bakers had no access to a frozen ready-bake pizza dough that was made from only regional grains. We had access to pizza doughs that had maybe partial use of a regional grain, but not a committed, total use of a regional grain. And let's face it, every culture has their favorite flatbread, and in the US, our favorite flatbread is pizza. And flatbreads are a great way to utilize your culture's regional grain. whether it's naan breads or tortillas, for us it's pizza. And so this pizza crust is made from only freshly milled stone ground wheat and spelt that is sourced regionally. And I just always like to make the point that a pizza dough that might be manufactured in Maine from roller milled flour from 2,000 miles away is a completely different product, both in flavor and performance, than a pizza dough manufactured in Maine from stone ground grains grown regionally. The flavor is totally different. The handling is more relaxed and easily stretched. The color is different. If you compare the wheat varieties, you'll see some dough balls look very white, and this one looks much more caramel colored, and that is the wheat shining through in the Good Crust. So we are very excited to be scaling our business, having completed just 1 year of business in September. Our pizza dough is showcased on the menu of the Flight Deck Brewing program in Brunswick. We supply all of the dough for the Miller's Table at Maine Grains, right on the campus of the grist mill, and other places like Strong Brewing in Sedgwick, and even the Bowdoin Country Store is really trying to step up their game and use more regional ingredients in their pizza program. We really hope to be working with Bowdoin in the near future and expand our relationships with institutions as we are all acknowledging local sourcing and whole grain values to our food system.
Yeah, so this is what's exciting about being able to come out and visit. When I went to Bowdoin, the organic garden existed actually out on Crystal Springs Farm. Crystal Springs is actually a business member of the Maine Grain Alliance and is collaborating on a number of different pieces now. But it's so exciting to see this grow and transform. The reason that we got invited from Holden was that Holden was kind enough to connect with us, I think more than 2 years ago now, to learn about local grain, why it matters, what's great about stone ground milling, what's so good about malting grain in your state for breweries. And he helped to put together an incredible paper through an independent study, which then was fantastic because we were able to distribute that across all different types of people who are interested, not just here in Maine, but even outside. The Maine Grain Alliance has been the inspiration for a lot of other grain groups across the country that are helping to try to do some of this similar work. But then after that, Holden was so kind to continue to work with us on a bunch of different things. He recorded a 3-part podcast, which is available on our website. If you go to mainegrainalliance.org, under the Our Story, you can hear the whole entire long story of what we've done. And then most recently helped us to create sort of a shorter segment that we're using to help spread the word about all the good things we're doing. So Holden, I don't know if you want to talk about the organic garden at all, but this is all the pizza that we're making is using local ingredients. The veggies are from the garden. And do you want to talk at all about the garden?
I just give shout out to everyone who's here. Thank you all for coming out. This is awesome. Yep. We're super excited to be kind of reviving the garden after 1.5 years of dormancy. Really just 1 or 2 people have been around to help take care. But now that everyone's back, it's so wonderful to see the garden come to life again, being a space of gathering. So I can give shout outs to Lucy, Hayden, Zane, as the other garden heads, and all of you as Bowdoin Organic Garden members. Thank you all so much for coming out. All the pizza tonight has some Bowdoin Organic Garden produce on it. So the kale, tomato sauce, all of that is Bowdoin Organic Garden homegrown. And I'd also just love to give a shout out again to Tristan and everyone who came here. Tristan, he's come off say it, but he founded the Bowdoin Organic Garden back in '05. So he's kind of celebrity around these parts. Yeah. Thank you, Holden. Of course.
I also wanted to give Holden this. This is our Kneading Conference shirt that we made this year. It's a local artist. Ever since 2007, there's an artist who's made a woodcut that's inspired the Kneading Conference. And this year we did it virtually. So he made a person reaching through the computer screen, giving some wheat shafts here to the person watching. But just wanted to give this to you as a token of our thanks also for all of these exciting things that you've helped us with over the years.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody has questions about anything that we've just talked about. The oven itself, I was mentioning before, the deck is about, we have a little heat gun. I can tell you that the deck of the oven is 700 degrees right now. So it doesn't take long when you put some pizza in there. The oven has been a really wonderful tool for outreach to talk about these types of things, but you know, we don't have any, as Heather was talking about earlier, we don't have any white flour here in the state. We have whole grain flour, and that's because we have stone mills that are making this, which is keeping the you know, something like this, the berry of a kernel of wheat has a germ, bran, and endosperm. With white flour, you're taking the most nutritious parts, the bran and the germ, out, and you're left with just the white flour. So even when we sift out some of the bran, we still have about 76 to 86% of the original whole grain in the flour, which is what you're tasting inside of the pizza dough. And we also have 100% whole grains flours too. But what's incredible, if you get a chance, it's worth traveling up to Skowhegan where all of this effort was started. There's an entire food ecosystem that's evolved out of these efforts. Heather's sister, Amber Lamke, founded Maine Grains, and she bought a Victorian jailhouse that was in the center of town that was for sale. She purchased it and transformed it because it had vertical height into a mill. She didn't know how to mill at the time. She was a speech pathologist. What's incredible about that is that there isn't actually many places to learn how to mill. Now you think about how fundamental flour is in our lives. As far as I know, there's only 2 places that you can learn to become a professional miller. One is at Kansas State and another one in Switzerland, I think.
So she joined you know, Midwest grain farmers learning how to make cereal to go learn milling techniques from Kansas State University. And returned home with that expertise and a consultant willing to come look at the old jail building and give advice about how to best utilize that as a grist mill.
Yeah, so anybody have any questions? We're making the pizzas, we're stretching them out here. We're topping them. We have to top them a little more lightly than you would a normal pizza because when you're moving it around, it's just a little bit easier. We are putting them into the oven, hot deck. We had to fire the oven at about noon today to get it nice and hot. Where the peels have a little bit of semolina flour, which acts like ball bearings so that the dough slides right off and goes into the oven without too much issue. We're rotating it here with a pizza peel. And really, one of the things we were going to share is that pizza, you know, people think pizza often, it's like, you know, your cheese pizzas, and certainly there's lots of others out there, but what we love to do is to be able to make pizza with the season. So whatever's in season can make a wonderful topping, and that's what you're seeing tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Richard, do you want to say anything about our seeds?
Okay, I'm Richard Roberts, and I run the seed restoration project for the Maine Grain Alliance. And this year we got going in 2013. This year we had 40 different varieties of grains growing at about a half a dozen places around the state. And so we have a lot of some of the ancient grains, and then also mostly a lot of modern wheats, which are actually still about 6,000 years old. And because that's the ones that are the biggest producers. So what we're looking for is trying to grow out these varieties that would like this climate, and then make them available to farmers so that they could grow them out and make a living.
That's the most ancient grain that we have, einkorn. That's the great.
The original grain of Mesopotamia. It still grows wild in the Levant, so you can, in Syria and Lebanon and all those countries, it's still growing wild. And there's still, what happened, a few years ago we went to a conference on landrace grains in Bologna, Italy, and what's happening all around the world, as there is here, people trying to save these older varieties. So in a lot of these countries, what's happened, of course, is the modern wheats, which have bigger heads and produce a lot more grain, are the ones that farmers want to grow and sell, because then they get a better product. And so what's happened is a lot of these old, like, because you can see the very tiny head that's on einkorn, or here some of these things on emmer. This is green, so I picked it a little early. They usually get a lot bigger and often dark, and that was the grain of ancient Egypt. And they had holes on them. The holes had to be removed, and at some time emmer, one of these grains, crossed with what they refer to as the Caucasus goat grasses and became what's known as modern wheat, and they're free threshing. So if you take a head and you can just, and there's the grain right there. So at some time, some farmer 6,000 years ago who was growing this hulled grain saw this thing sticking up and went, what the heck is that? And he saw this come out, and he went, well, the heck with that stuff with the hull that I have to remove. I'm going to work on growing this stuff. And that's really where all the effort, all the research has gone into. And even nowadays, all these universities all over the world are always trying to find breeding different modern varieties, mostly for disease resistance. But what we're doing here is getting small amounts of seed from seed savers and trying to grow out and find varieties that like this climate, and then eventually make them available for farmers to grow commercially. And I'll talk to anybody about any grain if they want to.
Richard and I'll talk for hours, so you have to be careful about both. But does anybody have any questions about any of this? I own a small farm up in Aroostook County, an organic farm with my brother, and my brother mostly runs our operations there, but I'm there at the beginnings and ends of each season helping with planting and harvesting. My family's grown potatoes for many generations up in Caribou, which is about 5 hours north of here. So, but yeah, there's a couple of questions.
Yeah, I had a question about, your mobile oven.
Yeah.
Where else do you travel with that? Do you go to like different conferences and stuff bringing that around?
We do. Yeah, we travel with it quite a bit. It's actually been on the road for about a month. The reason that we chose today as the date to do this was that it's been Frontier right here in Brunswick was using it for a fundraiser for the Mid-Coast Hunger Relief on a couple of days ago, and we just brought it up and figured if we were in the area we could try to organize something too. But we bake all of the bread for the Common Ground Country Fair, all the volunteers, so there's thousands of volunteers at the Common Ground Country Fair. We also use it a lot during the Kneading Conference, which is a gathering of hundreds of people in central Maine. It's one of the premier baking conferences in the country. We have presenters from all over the world come and present on a huge variety of topics. This year we were virtual, and we did, I think, 30 different workshops over the course of a week. So everything you could think of on the baking side we cover, and we talk about how to use local grain in it. Stone ground flours and some of the things that are a little bit harder to find information education on. So that's largely what we're involved in. But we've done a lot of different events over the years. But yeah, you'll see these ovens in different spots. If you go to Maine Beer Company in Freeport, you'll see a newer version of this oven. But they travel around the countryside, and they're incredible. Maine Wood Heat is the company that makes them, and they're good friends of our organization.
Oh, okay. Sweet, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions on anything? Feel free to throw them out as we're doing this.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, they smell so fragrant. They do. It's probably why.
What are these?
These are roasted garlic cloves.
Oh my goodness.
That's what it smells like. Which produces one of the biggest.
I was wondering what that was. I was like, I don't know what that is.
Do it.
Like, I don't know if it's like chicken or mushrooms, but like, I want some.
It is very much like umami. Olive oil, all over fire before we get going.
Yeah, they hold it for me. Just walk over there. That's kind of what's going on in my head.
This is informing your.
What do you think? What's the art for this one? Red sauce?
Pizza crust.
Anything else you think should go in there?
Maybe like a splash of like reddish orange, like a single tomato slice. Or single tomato.
You work on the art.
Oh my goodness, I see. Thank you for preparing all the vegetables for this.
Yes, look at these amazing peppers.
I just
They look
picked
so
them.
good.
They did
Well,
all
I mean,
of them.
picking them at work. You did it.
A little bit.
Tiny bit of parmesan.
Oh my goodness, yes.
This is like, say no more.
Well, I suppose that nothing compares to wood fire pizza, but using the same dough in an oven.
Yeah, that's how I cook it at home. But what you're going to do is you're going to crank up your convection oven as high as it will go, to 500 or 550. Don't be scared. And just put in a pizza stone or a cast iron pan, a flat cast iron pan. If you don't have that, don't worry about it. But it's best cooked on really high heat in order to get that like quick oven spring that like cooks up your crust for you.
Do you recommend doing the thing where you like preheat the pan or the stone before you put it on?
Yes. But if you're nervous about, and many for good reason might be, about pitching your pizza into the oven, a good strategy is to take a sheet pan and turn it upside down, put a piece of parchment on it, build your pizza, and then slide your parchment. Your parchment and all can go on the hot surface and it will be fine.
And that's how I cook all my bread. Because after all that effort, high hydration bread, right? It's really hard to handle. I am not ready to ruin it like the last time. Right. I always use it. Yeah. It's kind of a safety measure.
Can you shift around to where?
So thank you.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
We're thrilled to have you. So good. You want to get the good crust in your dining hall?
Wait, did you develop this crust yourself?
Yes, I did.
That's so cool.
We utilize 100% grain from our regional grist mill in Skowhegan. That's a good answer. In a recipe that includes wheat and spelt.
What are like the benefits of using
Nutrition, because it's whole grain, fiber, flavor, supporting your regional farms instead of, I often say, why truck your flour 2,000 miles away when it's being grown 200 miles away and you can support the farmers in your region. But maybe if you missed our starter talk, one of the things we talked about is the fact that every culture has its favorite flatbread, whether it's tortilla or naan or rice cakes but in the U.S. it's pizza. And your culture's favorite flatbread is an ideal way to eat your regional grain. And traditionally that's how that's done. And so I think that is a value as well.
We're down to the last one.
We're reheating the deck of the ovens because if you bake on it a long time, then it gets just a little bit too low. So we've got the coals
What
on
year
the
are
top.
you?
We'll push them back, and it only takes a couple minutes to
welcome.
fire the pizzas.
Where do you guys get your cheese from? The ricotta is from a cheesemaker in Skowhegan. This mozzarella is from Narragansett, Rhode Island, actually. The blue cheese is from the Cape, although there's a really, really great cheesemaker in Bath, Maine. It's called Hans End, H-A-H-N. So she's at the Bath Farmers Market on Saturdays, and I just didn't have a chance to get there this weekend. But if you've got a way to get there, that's a really, that's a nice market to check out for the cheese. H-A-H-N, Hans End, yeah.
That's my favorite.
She has I think she's, well, very, very good aged cheesemaker. My friend in Skowhegan who makes the ricotta actually won the Good Food Award last year for her smoked ricotta. I brought up just plain ricotta.
You ready for this one?
Yep. And I mean, it's pretty amazing stuff.
I don't know.
Put out your.
I did all of it over the weekend. That's how I do my readings. I'll do it all over the weekend. So it took a long time.
I've been eating this stuff instead of rice.
You never know, right?
Yeah, I was worried it wasn't going to be enough.
You just never know.
Hi, Debbie.
We've made some white pieces.
We did it! Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Kind of reminds me of